Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar. My name is Andrew Townsend. I'm the Campaign Marketing Manager here at eLearning Brothers. Today's session is going to be all about chatbots. We're very excited. This is a popular topic and we're excited to hear more about that from our presenter. This session will be recorded. We will get a copy of it emailed out to everybody who has registered, so you'll be able to access that after the fact. We'll also be posting this on our blog, so if you'd like to share this or come back to it later, you can always find that at blog.elearningbrothers.com. If you have questions or comments during the webinar, please use the questions panel. That is a part of your GoToWebinar control panel there on the side. You can find the questions section and you can type in whatever you'd like in there, and we'll get to as many of your questions and comments as we can. All right, so before we introduce our speaker today, I do want to launch this quick poll to find out how familiar everybody in our audience is with chatbots. So go ahead and just click directly on the screen and let us know your familiarity with them. Maybe you've never used them, but you've heard of them, and so you're here to try to learn more about them and see how useful they can be for you. Or maybe you're using them already and you're just looking for tips and tricks on how to be more effective with those chatbots. So I'll give you guys just a couple moments to vote on that. Looks like a good chunk of you are voting. And okay, I'll close it out and I'll just share that with everybody. So 42% of our audience might have used one on a website. So if you go to a website and there's that little chatbot in the corner to help you try to find what you're looking for, but not for e-learning. You've never used chatbots, 18%, 17% have looked into them just a little bit, 16% hope to start using them soon, and I think you guys are in a great spot here today to get into that, and 6% are already using chatbots right now. Well, this is great. So to talk to us today about chatbots, we've got George Hanshaw, the Director of E-Learning Operations at Los Angeles Pacific University. Thanks for joining us, George. We're super excited to hear what you have to say. And without further ado, I'm going to pass the screen over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. That was very nice introduction. I want to just go ahead and dive in to chatbots and all that we know about chatbots and what they're for. Kind of interesting that we've all used chatbots at some time on a website. We may have not even known that we've been using them, but they've been there. So I want to kind of dive in. And first, if you could type into the chat, what are some hopeful takeaways from today, so I make sure that I don't just talk. There's actually a purpose, because there was a nice mix of people in here. So feel free to type into the chat on some of the takeaways that you may want from today.
As those are coming in, I want to learn how to make a chatbot. I'd like to know some tools that I need to get or become familiar with to create chatbots, and then learn best practices on those. There's quite a few people here saying, I'm familiar with chatbots on a marketing perspective, just like we were saying on a website, but I'd love to see how they apply to and how that can be applied there. Also looking for just creative use cases. How can we use this to make it awesome, to make our e-learning exciting and awesome? There's a lot of these coming in, but they all kind of go around looking for inspiration, looking to learn how, if I wanted to dive into this, and how cool it can be.
That's awesome. Hopefully, well, the plan is to actually speak into all of those wants and needs, how far we get. We're going to learn how, we're going to look at chatbots. We're going to actually go in and troubleshoot and build a chatbot. Now, these are going to be very simple chatbots that we can make, that you can make in a very quick time. And I'll show you all the tools that we've used so you can use them as well. They're not the only tools out there, just showing you the ones that we use. Wouldn't look very good demonstrating a tool I've never used before, but there's a lot of uses for chatbots. Just-in-time training, we have the semantic web, which creates our ability to create individualized experiences. You can send directions, instructions. It can be for just about anything. So I'm gonna, let's jump in and just kind of look at our first one. We built this bot. You're looking at a bot for one of our nursing courses. I have an L&D example as well coming up. But this bot was specifically built for students to feel comfortable, supported, and confident in what they're doing. So the build was actually very important. If you look, we have who we call Agent R right here. She is our bot, the face of our bot, and you see that throughout the entire course, any course within the nursing program. And she has under assignments, discussions, and course navigation, or you can type in right here. Now, with all of those looks, and we go through a process of know, feel, and do, which, Andrew, I think that you might be having a webinar coming up with one of my colleagues on the know, feel, and do process of how we come up with all of that in the next couple of months. So that'll be a good time. Make sure you join in that one as well, because you'll see all the back end stuff on how we came to this. But a quick story, this is Agent R. Agent R is actually not an icon, but a replica of one of my colleagues, because when she come into work pre-COVID, after a weekend, be like, hey, what'd you do this weekend? I went to Japan, I went to Scotland. So she earned the name of Agent R because she was always going, always coming back with amazing stories and things like that. So when we built this, she actually built Agent R and all of the likenesses within the bot. And why is that important? That's important is because when you can have somebody build from that perspective that is theirs, all those little details come into play that people may not really know or see, but they'll certainly feel. So that's kind of the story behind how we came up with using Agent R. And you notice Agent R in this case is a nurse. She has her entire nursing outfit, cool sunglasses as well, to kind of capitalize on that Agent R perspective. So let's dive in and see what Agent R can do. We click assignments. Let's say a student wants to know assignments. Once more, that nice graphical approach. So here we have Gordon's functional health patterns. If we want to learn more about that, we can just click here, or we can type in anything. I'll type in a second. We have assignment requirements, directions, and any templates they may want to use. So the templates here, it'll come up just a moment. We already have it opened right here. So it comes up to fillable templates. So anything that the individual student needs is right there, is held within Agent R. This is without going into a classroom, completely on your phone. They can get all the requirements, all the directions for whatever they need or whatever they're looking for. We can get templates if they want directions. I need directions. Well, here they are. Here's Gordon's health directions right here, health assessment directions right here. So we can deliver a multitude of things simply by connecting them to our bot, and all of this is completely outside of the LMS. You can make a complex bot that can work, that can go in and grab stuff from the LMS, but you have to work with things like single sign-on, things like that. This is very simple. We do have the bot inside all of our classes. That's where they are, but the students can also access outside of the class and get all of this information. Just makes life kind of simple. Now for typing, all of this is done with what we call pathways. I'm going to dive into that a little bit later. We can type in like discussions. Click, comes in. I love GIFs. They help things connect really well. So we come up, Agent R gives us a couple statements about what are some expectations of the discussions, and then we see all the different weeks. We want to go to, let's see what week 4 holds. Well, week 4 has, here's our requirement, here's our prompt, here's our question, and then where do I respond? Okay, type in the chat, what do you think I just am going to use to answer the question, where do I respond? Give me your best wild guess at what you think is going to happen with that piece right there. Do we have any winners yet, Andrew?
There's some guesses here. You'll send them to the location where you respond, or it shows a screenshot, or a chatbot opens up to receive the response, or a link to something inside the LMS, or a link to the website.
Those are all fantastic responses. But remember, I said I love GIFs, so I'm going to show them how to respond right in the LMS. This was purposeful because we wanted to direct them right back. We could put a link that goes there, but in the overall app that they use, they should already have access. So I just want to show them that piece right here on where to respond. So a lot of fantastic options. So people are already seeing how you can take these bots and do just about anything with, because you don't have to hold all of the information in there. It can, the sky is really the limit, and they're very simple to build. Our just-in-time training, you can actually replace an LMS if you're small and you don't need a lot of reporting capabilities. You can use it to deliver your directions and the instructions. And with that said, how many of us are familiar with Bob Mager? I imagine if we're coming from an L&D perspective, Bob Mager is still fairly well known. And one of the stories that in training that was always told to us through my mentors and everything else is Bob Mager's favorite training program was one that he found in the back of a comic book in an advertisement on how to pick a lock. And he said it was the best training program ever because it showed how to pick a lock, chapter 1. Then it got into the boring stuff and all the great detail next. So that was our initial bot. So now we're going to get into the boring stuff and the detail a little bit. So hopefully that was enough to get you to hang on so we can show you how to build those in a couple minutes. So the first thing that we want to get clear on is the purpose of the bot. Once you get clear on the purpose of the bot, then the build is a lot simpler and how you go about the build. So type in the chat, what would some of your purposes be for a bot? Just-in-time training, I've used it for one of our counties here in California to deliver just-in-time training, and it was hugely beneficial and hugely simple. What would some of your use cases be? Go ahead and type those into the chat if you would.
One person says to replace an LMS, to offer frequently asked questions, to keep students engaged, student tutorials, coaching, helpful hints, troubleshooting for the LMS or quick help, website navigation, micro-learning. This person says, I'm looking to have a blog bot. Validate the demand for a specific course or training. I like that idea too.
Yeah, those are a lot of fantastic ideas. And a simple bot like this can provide that. You don't have to know how to code either to keep, if you're going to keep it simple. And we're going to get into the back end. But so training, blogs, when you need it, where you need it. That's kind of the big piece. And one thing everybody's been talking about, some people call it microburst, micro-learning, micro-training. That is really an integral part of learning from a bot. To me, it's an integral part of learning, period. But when you put the bot in place, it's really super important. And it's super important to use microburst training because they're using that bot to find something very specific, and we need to deliver it if you're using it for training. And this is a great way to use with that bot and just focus training. So you can make videos, you can use text, whatever is the norm for your organization. You can even use a bot to kind of stretch that norm as well, and you can create videos for it. So why do we care if it's microburst training? How many of us have heard of one of the big topics these days is for learning is that spaced repetition? How many of us have heard about spaced repetition and maybe even implemented it as well within your training? Because it's a really powerful tool. So if you get anybody, Andrew, if you can type that into the chat and just let me know some folks that may have used spaced repetition or have at least heard about it, and it's a fairly common term now.
There's a couple yeses, a couple people saying that they've heard of it, they like the idea, but they've never used it. And there are just a couple people that haven't heard of it before.
Fantastic, because spaced repetition, the literature, I'm going to geek out here for a minute, so I apologize, but spaced repetition is you learn something and then obviously there's some space and then you revisit or re-engage that piece of content or information. Some people have tried to define a specific time. You need to wait, 1.5 days before you circle back to it for the maximum potential. But what the research actually shows is that if you're introduced to content, in this case, a micro learning, and you begin to forget something, that is the optimal time to circle back before you've completely forgotten it. But as I need to refresh my memory, you need to come back. So that's why chatbots are so powerful, because if you have focused training, they're circling back at the exact right time for spaced repetition to have its maximum effect. And the whole deal for that, why we care, especially in the world of training, is it moves content knowledge from short-term to long-term memory, and it makes it easier to recall. And when it's easier to recall, people can apply it in a creative way. And that's the key, being able to apply that knowledge in a new way. Because the real definition between a novice and an expert is the number of network connections they have between that piece of information and other pieces of content within their realm of experience and education. So that's really why using a chatbot and micro-learning is so powerful, because it connects with neuroscience and it works directly how we work as well. So we automatically circle back to it at the optimal time. So I'll quit geeking out on that one and show you something that I built. This took approximately 45 minutes. And we don't get Agent R, you get Geo, or my likeness. And notice here, because I wanted to show two things specifically.
George, if I can interrupt really quickly with a quick question. So you may have explained this a little bit already, but if you could explain a little bit more, where are learners finding these chatbots? Because this doesn't look like you're in an LMS. It looks like you're just on a web page. But at what point in the process are they encountering these bots?
You make them and you create that point. That's the key. In our case, we have that right the first thing in our LMS when they open up their classroom. They see Agent R and they can click on her right there. So that's where we chose to put Agent R. You can have your chatbot external of an LMS. You can put it wherever you like. That's the key ingredient. What fits your organizational culture is exactly where it should go, and the intent that you have for the bot.
Okay, great.
Does that answer the question okay?
I think so. I think that does. Thank you.
Okay, because it's real important that you match it up with the needs of the organization and the individuals using it, and that could be something completely different than anything I can think of. So we have hard skills, soldering here, and we have manager training here as well. So let's dive in. Let's take a look at manager training first. And here you notice we have several courses they can take: appreciative inquiry, emotional intelligence, manager training, get good at the managerial tasks, and if you didn't find your choice. So if I click here, manager training, it goes directly to a training course. Now the nice part about this, remember we talked about micro-learning. If we click into the course, we have a quick video. But here we're talking about time cards. So managers needed to know how to do time cards. And a great way for learning is to do a no-stakes quiz right away if, and I'll probably answer this incorrectly, so I'll just mark daily. I didn't even read the question. I got it incorrect, but look what I have here. I have a micro-learning feedback session right here. So all of that can be built in, and all of this was delivered by our bot named Geo right away. So that's kind of exciting how we can deliver quick overall courses, and if we built the course in micro-learning ways, they can access whatever they want there too. So that's the flexibility of the bot. You can put all those micro-learning pieces in the bot, or you can just link out where you already have them built. So in some cases, it doesn't take a tremendous amount of extra work. You have to just be very methodical on how you create it. And when I want to go home, I can just type in, I'll just type in home to get to the original here. What would you like to do? Let's look at an actual task, something that people have to do hands-on. And that would be solder. We broke it into solder technique, solder equipment, solder specifications. There's nothing here yet. If I have a micro-learning video for a 16-pin dual inline package, a dip, I click it, and then the video is going to start right away. That's obviously an advertisement before, but you can make videos that connect directly to specific tasks so people can access them. If you can also use, and what's my favorite thing to use? You're going to see it right here again, a GIF. So this shows people how to solder. Put your tip on, hit both metals, apply the solder, snap off at the same time. So there's so many different ways. My hope is that you're starting to connect on how this can all fit within the culture of your organization and learning with there, because there's multiple ways that you can do this. I want to go back to my page again. I'm going to click soldering just so you can see the path. So all of those are created by pathways. We have frequently asked questions that run when you type something in here, but as I click here, it's all by pathways. So if I want to learn about soldering irons, I can click there. That's a text response. And obviously you can make those responses as robust or as clean as you want. That is up to the needs. And then if I click solder, oh, only eutectic solder is used. Let me look at solder type. Didn't work. That's going to give us something to do. Let me try solder size. Well, when I click solder size, what just happened? We roll right back to our initial screen for solder, so that doesn't really help me either. So we're going to go into our bot and make some changes with those. And I believe when I hit flux, it didn't understand. Our bot didn't understand it. So what I have as a default is it goes right back to this welcome, where it says, "Hi George, welcome back. What would you like to do?" So if it doesn't understand, even if I type in something of nonsense, hit enter, it doesn't understand, we go back. So is that enough? Look at the bot. Are we ready to go in and take a look at the back end on how you can simply build this? Type that into the chat if we need to look at any of this stuff a little bit further, or if we're ready to build it. Let me know.
I think everybody's ready to dive in. There's lots of questions wanting to know what tools were used. So yeah, let's dive on in.
Okay, well, let's dive. Let's be that Olympic diver and get in the deep end. All right, here we go. So the first tool that we have, these bots were built through Engadi, as you can see here. There's several other companies out there that do it. We settled on Engadi. We went through a process of looking them up, and this is where we ended up, and it's worked very well for us. In here, we have, whoops, if I can click correctly, we have all the different pathways. Welcome new user, greet returning user, default message. So that's what you saw whenever I typed in something that made no sense or the bot didn't understand. It goes to the default message, and that will send us via pathway wherever we want to go. So let's dive in a little bit further and troubleshoot. Remember when I hit flux, it had no idea what to do. I didn't have it going anywhere. So I'm going to click here. These are your options. Send a message, which is what we're going to do. Send a message with options. Remember when I clicked on, I think it was solder, then it had the two buttons underneath, and neither of those worked either. That was send a message with options. So we're going to get all of this stuff to work. The carousel is what you saw when we went to manager training, and all of these came up. That is a carousel. You can request user data. You can trigger a path. If we want to trigger a path, we have to have well, you don't have to have it made yet. You can create one here, but you simply select that path that you want to trigger. So you need to make sure what you're doing is clear and what you want to do is clear. So for in this case, then I'm going to show you right after we build our message. So you can see there's a lot of different things. We could send audio, video, script note if you want to code a little bit. There's all kinds of integrations as well. So you can make it as complicated as you like. Right now we've got just a limited amount of time, so we're going to try to keep it as simple as we can, and we will send a message. Now the coolest part about this is to make it personal. If I click in here and hit bracket, and then I just happen to know this, Ed, and I could pick name. That's going to pull my name that we already submitted. Whoops, I got too many brackets in there. Well, we'll see if it works with the 3 brackets. I don't know. And we'll say, this is where we find out about solder or about flux, right? Period. You would actually put whatever information you want in there. And now I'm going to hit save. And hopefully, let's see, it looks like it works. So now, as you can see, flux, now I'm going directly to send a message to. And that's what it should look like. So you see that connection right there. Let's see if it worked. I'm going to go ahead and refresh here. We're going to go into soldering. And then let me click flux. Because this is a live session, watch it not work. Hey, George, this is where we find out about flux. So if we put in what we actually wanted to know, it would show up right there. So the Gremlins and Murphy did not show up, and that worked. So now one more quick question. You see all of these pathways right here? This came from a template, so there's a lot that I did not use. I haven't cleaned it up just so you could see all the different pathways that can automatically come with it. Who thinks that this would be simple to coordinate and to control all the different pathways? Is there anybody out there that thinks that would be a simple task?
Well, there are people making ties here. So it's very similar to building a branching scenario in an e-learning course.
Yes.
You're just looking at possibilities and trying to fill those in. The open text section does add a difficult variable to it because you can't always predict every single thing that's going to be said. But I think we are getting along. I think we're figuring this out. It's simple but not easy.
Thank you. Simple is rarely easy. Simple is beautiful. To make something simple, it takes a lot more work. I think, wasn't it Mark Twain that said, I would have written a shorter letter if I had the time. You know, it's easy to make things complicated and difficult to make them simple. The tool that we use is a Miro board. Our connection is restored. So this one's very simple. Here's our chatbot. I was going to go off in this direction for leadership, this direction for solder. We have standards, techniques, so equipment, standards, technique, tools, and then we just simply follow the pathways. It's really that simple to make the pathways. Now, what goes into those pathways is where you have to make sure you have whatever videos built, whatever text you want, whatever GIFs, whatever graphics. That's where the work comes in. Building the bot is really nowhere near as difficult as I personally thought it would be when I dove into this process. It was like, oh, okay, I've built a branching scenario before. I can do this now. And then, so here, we just come in to build. So I'm going to click build. I want to build it. These are our pathways. It also has smart responses, and known as FAQs is the simplest way to go. And you could put in keywords. So when we typed in what did we type in and it didn't work? I think it was solder or something else. Maybe it was flux. You can simply go in, hit add fact, type it in, use solder, soldering, you know, all the different possible names of it, and it will go wherever you tell it to go. It can launch a response, it can launch a path, whatever it may be. The idea here is whatever document you use for collaboration, whether it's maybe it's from Teams or Google or whatever you use that, create a fact sheet, and then simply upload it to your bot. That's the simplest way to go, because that way you have multiple people using that and engaging with that. So it's a very, very simple way to go. I did not bring up, my apologies. Can I unshare my screen just for a moment and bring up, well, I'll just bring it, you'll see all my files. Okay, so I'm not sharing. I want to bring that up to make sure I did correctly.
I hid your screen, so just let me know when you're ready to put it up again.
Awesome, I'm going to open up this PDF file, so go right ahead.
All right, here you go.
We are here. So this is the simple process that we went through. Uh-oh, I'm not sharing anymore. What happened?
No, we're still seeing it.
Oh, you're still seeing it? So I'm the one that's not seeing it. All right, fair enough. So this is the process that we went through to build it and to keep it simple. Remember that the key is that it has to match the needs and culture of your organization. That is the key. That cannot be overstated how important that is. But step one, define the bot's purpose. Step two, create the feel. That's that webinar that Andrew, you're going to host with my colleague on Know, Feel, and Do. Would be a great one to attend to be able to create that feel. And then define pathways. That's what we did in the Miro board. So whatever you use to build your branching scenarios, if you have another tool, fantastic. Create the facts and then dive in and build. And the nice thing, what I liked about Engadi is you can have more than one person working on it. And so somebody can be updating the facts, somebody can be creating the pathways. And then the key for us, was really to hit send the bot, send it out, have people use it, have people mess around with it and give you feedback. That was highly important, because the more feedback you get, the better you become with using that bot. Do not expect it to be perfect the first time you send it out, because you will come back and get some feedback on things that aren't working, and it's just a way to make it grow. So don't be afraid to send it out and get started, because it will continually grow. And that's kind of the beauty of it. It gets better and better and better as you use it and as you get feedback. So that, in a nutshell, is the whole build process. Was that a lot simpler than you thought before we ended up here?
Again, simple but not easy is the consensus here in the audience. There are a couple questions. Do you incorporate natural language processing?
Oh, not yet, no. No.
Okay,
whoever asked that, if you could put in some ideas, if you have some, not ideas, but some sources for us, that'd be awesome. Always looking for ways to grow.
Another one here, the bot could learn by himself. Could the bot learn by himself, or do we have to build every single path?
Oh man, that's awesome. And if you want a simple bot, build it. But let me see, let me get here. Let's see here. The bot can learn. So it is, I wasn't ready to, yeah, the bot can learn, and you can add, there's multiple ways of doing it. For this one, I just kept it simple
Mm-hmm.
with the pathways as you build, because that's the easiest way to keep it simple. But it can learn, but you're going to have to get into a little bit of scripting language to make that happen.
Sure,
So
sure.
that moves us from the simple to the more complex.
Yeah. Is there reporting to find out when the bot couldn't answer a question? So if you have, if you look at the report of all the questions that weren't answered, and you can say, oh, well, people are asking about this. Let's try to deliver on that.
You can set it up so you get reports or whatever you want. That's up to you. You can have it as a data dump. Here's just kind of overall what happens. But if you get to a point where somebody goes in and am I sharing my screen right now?
Yep.
Okay, good. Want to make sure I'm not just talking to my own screen. When I believe it was a manager training, you can set it up for, if you didn't find your choice, you can even have contact us, and you can pull in that data and have it sent to a specific person, specific email, wherever you want. So it's very flexible that way.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Again, that adds that layer of complexity, though. So it depends on what you want and what'll fit your needs.
What is the difference? What is the pros and cons between this and just having all of the information organized on a website with proper hierarchy and things like that?
It gives, so like, let's say our nurse here, what it does is, I've actually done studies on this. I'm going to geek out for a second one more time, so I apologize if you fall asleep. What that does is when you make it like this, it actually evokes a feeling of support from the person using it. If it's in a class that you have it, guess what that's going to do? That actually makes the instructor, gives a perception of a greater instructor presence, and it gives a perception of or a feeling to the student that they are supported, and it lets them feel more confident, or in other words, builds grit. If you've ever read or heard from Angela Duckworth, it helps to build grit within that individual. So that is the main difference of why I care about it. Well, can you deploy the same information? Absolutely, but you won't get the same feel.
Sure, that's the experience, different in experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
You may have already mentioned this again. Our primary content delivery method is through an LMS. So how does this integrate with an LMS? How do you deliver LMS content in the chatbot window without the LMS UI elements?
Do you mind unsharing my screen a minute? I will bring up our LMS and show, as long as I can do that, because it's important on how you do that. If you can make it complex, you can make it simple, right? So that's really the defining factor of how complex or how simple you want to make it. And I'll show you how we put it in there.
Okay, just let me know when you're ready.
Ourselves. So is there another question that I can answer while this one's coming up? Because I have to do a quick search within
there's a couple questions about security using the bot engine that you did. Where does that data live? Your pathways and all of that information. If we're a very security conscious organization, we're going to need to know where that data is and what it's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of when I was talking about our design and how it has to fit the culture of your company. Like, I worked with the Skunk Works for many years, and working with secret DoD projects, this simply would not happen because it has to live on dedicated spaces. In this case, the pathways and all that live in the cloud with Ngati.
Okay.
So if that's an issue, that's something that you have to, find another bot that maybe doesn't do that.
Right. Key is that there's lots of different tools that deliver this method. Ngati is just the one we're showing today.
Yes, absolutely. All right, you want to go ahead and share my screen again?
Here it comes.
Yeah, because at Skunk Works, that just not happening. We
Yeah.
could build something and make it very internal, but we wouldn't have it as at a third person. But that was just because of DoD requirements.
Yeah.
So here's
Okay,
Agent R and how she lives within our LMS. This is our Moodle LMS, and we have Agent R. And in the app, because we always build mobile first, we never build laptop or computer-based first. Everything built is mobile first. We actually had a kind of a cool story. We have our president came out and he says, we need, if there was a person stuck on a desert island with only his phone and good bandwidth, could they complete their degree? That was the challenge that came out. So that meant that everything we built is mobile first. So it has to apply. So mobile first, when we click the Agent R button, it comes right up still within our Los Angeles Pacific University, just embedded within there. And our tech team did an amazing job putting that all together so it now is incorporated and embedded within the LMS. So that's how we did it. Are there other ways to do it? Absolutely, but it depends on how you utilize your LMS. Did that answer that question okay?
I think so. If it didn't, please let us know in the chat. Another question is our understanding of a chatbot or definition of a chatbot. I mean, that's somewhat of a gray area. So this is almost like a personified resource search tool, but could you make it so it was more of a conversation and provide specific text responses based on what is sent, instead of just saying, I did a search based off of your name and I'm delivering it, and here's a bot face to make you feel like you're talking to a person?
Absolutely. That part, that's the very first part when we talked about the know, feel, and do, and explain why you want to use a bot. You have to define why. And in these cases, we were delivering content to keep it focused on training, but you can absolutely do that simply by, in your build session, going to your smart responses and creating it that way. And you can actually dive in a little bit deeper with some scripting language and have it become conversational. Absolutely. But that it all depends on your why.
Right. It's just how you build it.
Yeah.
So we have some contractors on here, people that are freelance e-learning designers or developers, and they want to know, is it possible for us to build one and then give it to a client? Or would they need to have access to the tool as well?
Oh, well, let's look at deploy right here. This is kind of key. Which bot? I don't even remember which bot we're on right now, but you can deploy if you just want to deploy it to a website. So give your whoever your client is, you can give them the link, and you can give them any scripting. You can give them this. If they have somebody on the technical side who knows how to script, they can use that. They do not have to have access to the tool, but you have to keep it active in the tool. So you can't accidentally shut it off, or your client will probably not be very happy.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very simple with just the link or the script.
Are you familiar with the tool Google's Dialogflow?
I am not.
Okay, so there's a couple questions saying, how is this different or the same as Google's Dialogflow? It'd be great, and again, you've built it here. I think this might be something for us to consider as we're moving down the road, to maybe consider several different bot tools and maybe compare them to help you if you're headed down this path, to know what you'd like to do and where the value is in each of them, pros and cons. So that's something to think about. The question that we get asked all the time, I don't think we've had many webinars where we don't get asked, how is this ADA compliant? Is there a way that this, have you run into issues in trying to make sure that this is 508 compliant?
ADA is a big deal for us. We always want to make sure that it is, and you have to test it. And what we've done is to make sure any of the content that we link to as well is compliant. Keyboard navigable, all of that, the color schemes and everything. So that is really your responsibility as a builder to ensure that you're building within that realm. Like Agent R, the picture of her is just decorative. It doesn't have any super purpose other than creating that connection. So all of the text and all the content is screen readable, and everything else that is required. So that is a huge importance to us.
So is voice output possible, or if someone is just using a screen reader, it just is going to use that? Or is there a way for you to say the bot should read this out loud that you know of?
I have not ventured down that path, so I'm not going to try to come up with
Answer a question we don't have an answer for.
Yeah, that would be kind of silly. I do know that in the bot you can put audio paths in there, so you can, if you want to, you can actually have the path with audio or text or whatever it may be. So you can have both. You just have to create the audio.
Very cool. Very cool.
So that's somebody's chance to get their voice on a whole lot of content if they want to be able to do that. And
all right, well, that's
like I said, we just settled on this bot. We found this. It's not that this is the only one out there by any stretch. I would recommend doing a huge search and finding out what fits your organization the best.
Really?
Yeah, that's the key. That organizational culture is the absolute key to any of this.
Excellent. There's a couple questions that have come in about pricing and other things like that through Ngati, and I think that's going to be best left to Ngati. So if you have questions about those, please do reach out to Ngati. Those are all the questions that I think fit the scope of what we're talking about today. I do want to encourage you guys, we're going to send the recording out so you can review that, and that might answer some of these questions. People wanting to go back and looking for more information. We have a couple people that came in a little bit late as well, so we can get that included. Is there anything else that you were going to share before I take the screen back?
No, and Andrew, I'll share that if that little infographic that we have of the 5 steps is helpful, I'll share that out to you if you want to share it to folks, because you have the wider audience. Nobody's going to look for George for an infographic, but
absolutely.
So it's valuable.
Sent out in the follow-up email with the recording. We'll include that PDF for everybody. So, George, this has been very useful, very, very popular. Lots of people here in the questions panel saying thank you, very informative. They're excited to dive in and try to play with chatbots. So I think you've made us realize that it's not as hard as we thought it was, but it is still a lot of work. So
yes, it is.
I appreciate that eye-opening experience. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks, George, and we'll see you guys all
for having me
next time.